Let's pick up. I'd just like to finish off part of mitzvah reish tes. So the Rambam has here a very interesting thing that he says, "V'ein mutaloi lehiskreited imoy, or lehisroyim imoy, v'loi lodun oisoi lekaf chus." It means he shouldn't be done lekaf choyba. Kloima sheivaya ezapula odibo besug misugi abio lefi sheefshel niskam lekaf. Since the possibility lo niskam lekaf, so he shouldn't do such a thing. So l'cheira, there's an Aseh here of mahara acharaboy, and to be dano say lekaf choyla. The question is, what is being this chadish over here? Because the Ram's opinion is that in the mitzvah of b'tzedek tishbat hamisecha is a mitzvah lodun kol odun lekaf schos, and that's mitzvah Aseh Kofayin Zayin. We'll see in a second. I'll read it to you. It says v'yesh boy oid shuroi lodun es chaveiro lekaf schos v'loi yifoshu ma'asov dvorov el letei v'chesed. So the mitzvah l'don is kaf schos. So why is Rabbi different? That you have to have a discussion over here. Well, what exactly happened, and what's nitoisif bo? Because it's a mitzvah anyway. L'don is called kaf schos. So you can understand this in many different ways. The first is a mitzvah of donas kol mekaf schus is on stam b'nei odom, and the possibility of toiv v'ra of interpreting it in a positive way or in a negative way are equal. Look at the Rambam Pirush Mishnayis, the first option, the Rambam in Pirush Mishnayis in Perek Aleph of Ovois Mishnah Vov. But in the Mahara Acharaboy of Efsha Shaliskabon Lekach, it's not two equal possibilities. The probability is that who is Kabon Lekach. It's just Efsha Shaliskabon Lekach. So in such a case, there's no mitzvah Adon Kaf Schus. And this is a chadish in the mitzvah of kvod rabbi, that you have to be down on the kaf schus, and to say that he's a shoygeg, efshel niskamen lekach, even though lefi anir ayin, he's amazing. So then, the chayr what comes out is the mitzvah mishum kover amoy rabbi, is to look at your Rebbe as a tzaddik mufursim b'maisa, and to deal with him in that way. Because only in a tzaddik who's mufursim b'maisa, there's a mitzvah l'don of kaf schus, even though it's not mistaber. The Ram Pirush Mishnayis in Ovois Perek Aleph Mishnah Bo, Avo im hoya ish yodua shehu tzaddik umufursim b'maasa v'atei v'nir loy ma'isa shekol t'chunoisa yoru ala yose ma'isa ra ein lachriya boy shu ma'isa tei ela b'doichek rav moed. It's very difficult to conclude that he's mechaven l'tei ube'efshoros l'chayka soch leforish yoyse l'teketei. Hoyel v'yesh tzad efshos liyois toiv. V'yemuta l'choishtoi. V'al zeh omru chol achoshed ksherim loike begufot. So choshed ksherim is ksherim is a tzaddik mufus b'maisav, and that's loike begufot, and that's that din. And the mitzvah of kavod rabbi is mechayiv you to misyaches Torah is the rabbi kilu is a tzaddik and mufusam b'maisav. So that's the first possibility. Another possibility is the mitzvah of don lekavskos is to be machlit, is to come to a conclusion, and that it is toiv. It's not just a possibility. It's not just a random thought, but it's a conclusion. The Isa, and even though there's no problem to Maharer that maybe was an Avera, but the conclusion should be Latay. With Maharer Acharaboy, there's a problem of even the thought, that maybe your rabbi was niskaven l'ra, niskaven l'avera, that you can't have, because here he's talking about laharer, and lodun means to conclude. So that's another option. The difference between to suggest the possibility or to conclude. In the mitzvah don lekavskos is to conclude, and you could entertain a possibility that maybe it was a chayte. In Rabo, you can't entertain such an option, such a possibility. However, you should understand one thing, that all this is only in Sefer HaMitzvos. If you recall, I asked what's going on in Kufayin Zayin. He says, and maybe also including Pirush B'Shnayis, you include that the discussion always is also a discussion about the mitzvah. However, in Mishnah Torah, it's very difficult to make a case that the Ram's opinion is that Avidon or Kafskus is a mitzvah deraisa. And Adarabba, Pashis Rambam, it's just a midah of Talmidei Chachamim. Because the Ram does an amazing thing in Mishnah Torah. He quotes the din as Haridonis called all of the Kafskus, not as a din in general in applying it to everyone, but he quotes it in Perek Hey of Hilchos Deyes as the peculiar dinim of Talmud Chacham. And that he says, Kishem in Perek Hey, Aloch Aleph and Zayin, Kishem she'achochem nika b'chochmosa b'deyosa, v'umoved overhem mishar ha'om, kach tzorch shi'eh nika b'maisa b'machol b'meshkeu b'bilosa b'asiyas tzrocha b'diburoi b'ilucha ma'abusha b'chilkut borov masol matono v'yiu kol ha'ma'asim o'elu noyim u'sukonim b'yoyse v'chule v'don es kol ha'odam l'kafskos. And the din of kol ha'odam l'kafskos is only said in the peculiar perek of Talmud Chacham, Geshem shechacham nika b'chochmosa b'deyosav kach tzarich liot nika b'mais. So there's no mitzvah say over here. So to include the Isa lahara acharabo in the mitzvah say of kavod harav, And to ask a question about what the din of kol v'kaf schus a mitzvah, there's no issue. However, again, that is only in Mishnah Torah. Mishnah Torah is an amazing thing, and l'chera, it's a stira, but it's an amazing thing that the Rambam in Sefer HaMitzvos says that Donal Kafskus is part of the mitzvah of B'tzedek Tishma Misechot. It's a deraisa, and it's a mechuyev for everyone. And when it comes to Mishnah Torah, it's certainly not a deraisa, and it's a separate din in the Kashem Shachacham Nika b'deyosav b'maisav b'chochmosay u'b'deyosav. He has to be Nika in his maasav, and one of those expressions is Havidonas Kol Kapskos. Okay. Now, I just, when I asked the question last week of why the Gemara concludes that Chelik al Rabbi is Chelik al Shechina, it's B'teres Rabbi, the Moshe Rabbeinu had so many, hats, was the Adon and Nevi'im, and he was Rabban Shel Yisrael, and he's the Moisat Torah, and he's the Matiki Ashmua, and the Bala Meseira, and the Rosh Sanhedrin, and you can add on, and v'chuli, he's a Melech. So maybe it's Moshe Rabbeinu B'teres this, and Moshe Rabbeinu B'teres that. And how the Gemara conclude that it's Moshe Rabbeinu B'teres Rabban Shel Kol Echad V'Echad. And every Talmud has this problem with his rabbi to be Chelik al Rabbi, is Chelik al Shechina. It's Chiddush. Here, I just want to mention this, and I think I probably mentioned this last time we did the mitzvah, but I thought it's a very interesting point. The Rambam says on all these three cases of Korach and the Meimeriba and Misroim al Rabbi in B'Shalach, is he says Moshe Shoyed Rabban Shechol Yisrael. So the amazing thing that B'Shalach is like before Matan Torah. So what does it mean that Moshe Rabbeinu is Rabban Shechol Yisrael before Matan Torah? What does all that mean? So what I would suggest that this is Mora, Pash B'Shalach, and in Mora he's certainly Rabban Shel Yisrael, as the Gemara says in Sanhedrin, on the involvement with Beis, V'osanya Esem Mitzvah Stavu Yisrael B'Mora, Shebo Sheva Shekiblu Aleim B'nei Noach, V'osifu Aleim Dinin B'Shabbos V'Kibur Avayim. So you could say that he was Naseh because Moshe Rabbeinu was already Nosei mitzvahs, and in Mora, I'm not getting involved in this. I think the Maharatz Chayei says it. That what does it mean the Shev Mitzvah B'nei Noach? Because at that point in Mora, they became an Am, as the Ram says in Mora Nevuchim, and then you could say, as Maharatz Chayei says, that they weren't mechuyev in Zayin Mitzvah B'nei Noach, but only B'teres Yisrael. So Aseh mitzvah stavu mora, 7 b'nei mitzvah b'nei noach v'sif aleim dinim, and Moshe is Moshe Rabbeinu. But I wanted to add that in Rambam, the mashmos is even further than this. Dahainu, that Moshe Rabbeinu was Naaseh Moshe Rabbeinu even in Mitzrayim and even in the Shlichus to Motzi B'nai Yisrael Mitzrayim. He's looking at the Rambam in Perek Aleph, because of the Zohar, or Gimel, or Kemat Kot Hoya, or Iko, Sheshosel Avrom, Neka, B'chayzrin B'nai Yaakov, L'Tov, Sa'olam, B'tiyuson, U'me'avas Hashem Oisonu, Mishomes Hashvur Avrom Ovinu. Okay, this is the point of Bnei Yisrael in Mitzrayim, losing everything and losing the whole tree that Avram Avinu planted, the tree of Emunah, and the shirish became a shirish in Avodah Zarah. Kamat kot hoya ha'ika sheshosel Avram Avinu ne'aka v'choyzim b'nei Yaakov v'tuson, and that ika was Avodah Zarah. The Torah says olam v'tuson mi'avas Hashem Yisrael mishomes hashvur li'Avram Avinu also Moshe Rabbeinu v'Rabban shall call Anavim v'Sholch. And look there in Frankel in the Shinui Schos, and it means Moshe was also Rabbeinu for Yitzias Mitzrayim. And this can be explained in the Radak in Shmuel Aleph, Perek Yud Beis, Pasuk Vav. Tilamas she'oso, asher oso es Moshe v'es Aaron, asher higdilom v'limdom. Higdilom v'limdom. That's what Moshe and Aaron did. They were Magdil Knesset Israel and they taught Knesset Israel. So it means that the Matoris he sees Mitzrayim in the Sinas HaTorah HaMitzvos. That's the purpose. Moshe Rabbeinu is Nasan Rabbi Shal Yisrael b'Shtchila Shlichusah, because in the Shlichus of Yitzias Mitzrayim is a Shlichus for Matan Torah. Asher higdilom v'limdom. And it's not only here, the Rambam is mefurish that even in Midian, Moshe Rabbeinu, before he came to Mitzrayim, Moshe was Rabban Shel Yisrael. The Rambam was Mila, Perek Gimel Halacha Tes. Bo re'eh kama chamura Mila shelo nitlo leMoshe Rabbeinu. Oleho afilu sho achas afa pi shohe b'derech. Moshe Rabbeinu b'derech lo hitzi osa Moshe Rabbeinu. Okay, that's again on Midian, on the Shlichus, on the way to Mitzrayim is still Rabbon, and Moshe Rabbeinu was lo nitla afilu sho achas because he was mishpashel emila. So it's mafurish again and again and again. Now, I think we explained last week that the relationship and how we explain the relationship Kibbut Ovei, and Kibbut HaMerachomim. But l'cheira, the simple approach and what's coming out of all this is a double portion that the mitzvah of Moira Rabbi, the mitzvah of covered, and which includes Moira Rabbi, is not a separate mitzvah, but it's part of the mitzvah of covered Tamli Chachamim, of Kima and covered Tamli Chachamim. That's very clear. So the amazing thing is, if you open up Mishnah Torah, the Ram of Mishnah Torah, in different ways, you'll see, both in the Protei HaMitzvos and in the Seder Halachos, is Makdim Rabbi. Rabbi precedes Chacham. This is logically an impossibility, because the Kri of covered Rabbi is only an aftermath, an afterthought of covered of the covered Rabbi is only an aftermath of covered Chachamim. So how could the Rambam say both in Protei Mitzvahs, Rabbi before Chacham, and in the Seder of the Protei Mishnah Torah? Let's point this out. First of all, in the Protei Mitzvahs, the Rambam says like this in Protei Mitzvah Hilchos Talmud Torah: Lekabed melamdeho v'yoideho. Yoideho is the Chachamim. What's melamdeho? Melamdeho or Rabbi. So how could it put place melamdeho before yoideho? The mitzvah is lekabed yoideho, and also Melamdeo, because after the Kavachayma and the Marab, whatever you want to say, whatever shtick you want to say, is Rabo is included in the mitzvah of Kavod Chachamim. But to talk about Kavod Melamdeo before Yodeo, borders on the absurd. And the Rambam does the same thing in the Seder Prokim. Because in Hilchos Talmud Torah, the Rambam quotes the Perek of Kavod Chachamim in Perek Vav. And however, the mitzvah of Kavod Rabbi is in Perek Hey, which is logically the opposite, because Kavod Rabbi only exists as a mitzvah in as much as this Kavod Chachamim, and that's part of the mitzvah Kavod Chachamim. How can you put the mitzvah of Kavod Rabbi before? Okay. What I would suggest, okay, now I'm going to say something, and if it's correct, it's Yisayid, and if it's wrong, Chazrani be. Sefer HaMitzvos is a Sefer which the topic is mitzvahs and taryag mitzvahs, and everything is organized according to mitzvahs. Mishnah Torah, it is true, we use Mishnah Torah to organize the mitzvah Torah. We use the mitzvah Torah to organize Mishnah Torah. Dahainu, that we want to know that we have all mitzvah Torah, so we talk about taryag mitzvahs. But Mishnah Torah is not a biur on Talyag mitzvahs. It's a biur on Kol Dinei HaTorah, and within it you'll find the biur of mitzvahs. But the main emphasis is on Dinei HaTorah. It's just that the mitzvahs will ploy to know we have all Dinei HaTorah. The Seder of Hilchos Talmud Torah, the Rambam talks about the mitzvah Talmud Torah, and then he has a perek of Keser Torah, the mitzvah Talmud Torah, and then Keser Torah. Okay. Then in perek Dalet, the Rambam tells you of how the Rav is supposed to teach his Talmidim, and the tzura of the way they sit, the way they interact, when he's allowed to ask, and what he's allowed to ask, and how the Rav is mechaber the Talmud, and has to, how they interact in the learning. And l'chera, in writing these halachas, the logical thing in the flow of the Hilchos HaTorah, after you discuss in Perek Dalet, to discuss the dinim of Rav and Talmud in terms of the Seder Alimud and all its dinim, so you discuss then the dinim of Kavod Rabbi. Even though logically the mitzvah of Kavod Rabbi is based on Kavod Chacham, which hasn't been mentioned yet, but since you can make a case with a Kavod independent of the mitzvah, and the logical flow comes from Talmud to Kavod Rabbi, so you can mention in Perek Dalet, in Perek K, he can mention Kavod Rabbi before he mentions Kavod Talmid Chachamim in Perek Vav. But it's not he's caning the mitzvah different. It's just to say the halachas. But the bigger chiddush is that we also say that he could can the mitzvah and the prote mitzvahs also in the seder of the halachas, which is amazing. I could have imagined doing Perek Dalet and Perek Hay, and then since Perek Dalet is a relationship with Talmud and Rabbi, so talk about Kavod Rav, and then talk about Kavod Chacham. But I would have said that when you put their mitzvahs, nothing to do. It should have been mitzvah Lechabed Yodeho Umalamdeho. But the Seder, the Port their mitzvahs, is written according to the Seder Mishnah Torah, and not only in the Seder of the mitzvahs is according to the Seder Mishnah Torah, but even the discussion of the Esem Nusach mitzvah would depend upon the Seder Mishnah Torah, and it's Malam Deo V'Yodeo. Even though Ali B'Diemes, the mitzvah is a double portion, that it's Yodeo Malam Deo, which is big chiddush. Now, this is just Ha'orah, and it's a food for thought. It's possible that there are two phrases which are very important for the Rambam, and the Rambam Dazois or Vahovein there, that the inyonim are abstract and profound, and the Rambam is mazir that you should think about it and come to the proper conclusions. And here, at the end of in the beginning of the paragraph, or how you make the paragraphs, it's da, and here at the end, it's v'hovein zeh. This is the end of this mitzvah. It's Hashem. Next mitzvah. Mitzvah Reish Yud. HaMitzvos Aseh u'Mosayim hu shetzivonu לכבד אב ואם. ואומר יסעלה כבד את אביך ויס אמך. וכבר הסברו משפטי מצווה זו בתלמוד ברובוי ועיקרי בקידושין. Here, okay, the mitzvah, he just says over the pasuk, the mitzvah is l'chabed oveim. He's not interested in the dinim, what's esovicho and esimecho. He's not interested. He's just telling you what the mitzvah is. The oddity over here, just before we go on, is usually the Rambam at the end of the mitzvah. I'm not sure exactly why this happened. At the end of the mitzvah, he ended Kvar Yisbaim Mishpli Mitzvah Zo, the Talmud, Beruboi, V'ikroi, B'Kiddushin. So why he mentions it afterwards, V'loshen B'Sifra, Ezeu, Kovoid, Ma'achil, Mashke, Malbish, U'Mechase, Malbish U'Mechase, Machnis U'Motzi. This is Sifra. Interesting. This is also Gemara Kiddushin. Alam and Aleph from the base. Kibud Mahu Kibud Abe. Kibud Machel Umashke Malbish Umachase Machnis Umotzi. And he also quotes this in Mishnah Torah, in Hilchos Mamim, in Perek Vov Halacha Gimel. Now, here, just a point, it's very clear in what we discussed in Mitzvah Reish Tes, in the Mitzvah of Kavod Rabbi, and Kavod Chacham, that the kibud of Avi'im and the kibud of Rabbi are very different. So just Ha'ara, I'm not sure exactly what to do with it, but just the idea. In Maseches Ketanos, it's Mavur that Kibud Avi'im and Kibud Rabba are identical. Masechet Derech Eretz, Perek Vov, Halacha Gimel, Ezo Machabed, Ma'achil Umashke, Malbish Manil, Machnis Umoitzi, Echod Horav, V'echod Chochom. Ve'ezo Mavaze, Lo Yeshem B'koimoy, Lo Yidavim B'koimoy, Lo Yisei. So it's an amazing thing that in Masechet Derech Eretz it equates the two. You should just know it's not a idea. Contrary to popular knowledge, Masechet Derech Eretz is not a Masechta. It, I think, the best of my knowledge, it was written by Me'agrinim and from the in Eretz Yisrael. So it's not like a Gemara or whatever it is, or how it works. Okay, das is das. Now, this, is very simple, and no problem, and everything's happy. Here now, the problems start. The problem is, and we'll see, that the Rambam introduces in Yiras Av Ve'em new dimensions which we don't find anywhere. And almost as the Talmud says, V'isi ben Padosh, Shiyeshe v'deresh, Moshe Piagvura. Kilu is Machadish new klolim, a new definition of mitzvah, and a priori, we don't understand what the basis is. Let me read to you. HaMitzvah Reshut Aleph, v'HaMitzvah Achas, or Achas Esrei Mosayim, Hi shetzivonu lira me'av ve'em. So the question is, what does it mean that you fear your parents? What are you in fear of? What does it all mean? So the Rambam takes upon himself to define what it means. And frankly, we have no clue. We understand maybe he's trying to explain what the mitzvah is, but we have no clue of where he got it from. So let's say, what does he say? Shetzivonu lira me'av ve'em v'hu she'yisnai imohem kiminig mi sheyore mimenu shanisheyu. Oynish Kamoy hamelech, Minish and melech. V'yelech imoyem kederech sheyelech emishem yefache mimenu v'yira mehagia lo mimenu ma sheyimas. Ma sheyimas is okay. The interesting thing is, this is Ibn Tibban's translation. However, the translation of Ibn Eov and Kapach are basically the same, and there are, and whatever is, and it's different than Ibn Tibban. And I would assume is that Ibn Eov and and Kapach is more Pirush Miluli. We don't understand. We'll see what happened. I don't know. We just have to understand what happened to Ibn Tibban. But here, listen like this. Ibn Eov. Vuhu שנכשווים במעלס מי שנירו ממנו לעונש כמלך. It's the way you perceive your father, נכשווים. ושננהג עמהם המנהג, שננהג עמהם מי שנירו ממנו, אם עמהם מי שנירה ממנו ומי שמפחד מבוא עונשו ממנו. That's even Eov. So there's Nechashev and there's Ninag. According to Ibn Tibban, it's just Ninag. Kapach vuhu shenechashvim b'mailis mi shireim mimenu umanish k'moy hamelech. ונסנהג עמהם כמסנהגים עם מי שיראה ממנו, וחוששים פן יעשה להם דבר בלתי רצוי. So again, both of them have nechashvim and nisnaheg. So what happens is that according to probably the Arabic, and I'm over here, there's an aspect of the mitzvah of kibbur aim is the way one has to have regesh belev, that he has to fear, even though there's no expression of it all. Aloch al-maisi, he has to have this fear. And then this night, and even Tibet, this doesn't exist. There's a chinuch and there's a smack, and they will talk about it next week, this way, that way. But it's very clear this issue is in the simple translation of the Rambam. There is a mitzvah of yiras av be'ein belev. Now, let's now discuss this. This is like, an amazing new idea. See, in Yerushalayim, there's yiras oynish, and there's some fear belayed. In Yiras HaMikdash, it says mi atoyore. It says pulois, but I'm not sure that it says that in Yiras HaMikdash you actually have to have pachad. However, in Yiras Av, the aim, there's a feeling of pachad. In Rabbi, we know it was chilek al Rabbi, Misrayim al Rabbi, this, Mo'erabcha Mo'eshamayim. But is there, the Ram doesn't say here, Minyan HaMitzvos, that the mitzvah is to be in trepidation of Rabbi, that the Rabbi is going to give you an oynish or something or whatever. We don't know such a thing. So it's very interesting. The Ram is mechadish in Aveim, a fear, belay, which we have no idea of what happens. We only find by the Rebbeinu Shalom that there's actually yira of oynish or something, or the likes. Then even the Merabch Moshmaim becomes very strange because it's not a fear be'etzim of Talmud Chacham. Somehow it's compared to God because Chilik al Rabba, Chilik al Shchinas. This all requires a lot of work. Now, so not only is there yira of be'aim, the Ram is mechadish over here that it's yira she'oinish. And furthermore, it's not only yira she'oinish, it's yira she'oinish. You look at father or mother like a melech. We have no idea where the Ram took this from. But to compare it to Melech exactly is impossible because the Dvar Miyuchadim of Melech Susoi, Shalvitoi, Ishtoi. Let's say Shavito, let's see what is there's an Isa of to use Shavito Shomelech, and there's an Isa to use Susa Shomelech. In the Susa of Abba in the aim, or the Shavito of Abba aim, there's no such thing because that's the Chos of the peculiar to Melech. As the Rambam has it in Perek Beis, Halacha Aleph Lichus Malachim. But even though you're allowed to mishtamish in Dvar Michodim LaMelech, but in this sense, because Dvar Michodim LaMalchus is only the Melech, but the keyboard of or the keyboard Melech, which shows Yira Derech Diuk, somehow is the same case. And also, in fact, that in Melech, the Amor is an expression of Kvoidai, which is part of the same Tosim Alecha Melech. As the Ram says in Perek Beis, Halach Aleph, Koved Godol Noigin B'Melech, Koved Godol Noigin B'Melech, Umisimin Loi Amor, V'yira, V'leiv Kol Adam. Shenemar, so that's part of the Koved Godol. Saying Tosim Alecha Melech, Shetei Amor Solo. Alecha. And L'chayra and Av, the Koved and Moira, is Chuluk and Betzim Yisrael Dina. It's two separate mitzvahs. But still, somehow, you learn out Moira of Aveim from Moira Melech, which is very interesting, and we have no idea what to do with it. Now, the question is, I'm not sure 100%. One could claim that this translation, both of Kapach, but both of Ibn Eov and Kapach, Shenachashvim Kemelech, it means you perceive them as something like a melech, but you don't actually fear them, but you look at them as a melech, or it means you actually have to quantify the fear. I'm not sure 100% what he's saying here. Now, then the Rambam does something. You see, when the Rambam quotes, let's say, we have to know in general, and it's probably important to study this. When the Rambam says Loshen Sifra, as explaining after he explains the mitzvah, who Amar Yisale Ish Imo V'Ov Tiro, that this explains what happened before, or this might be a separate discussion. V'Loshen Sifra Eze Omeira Lo Yeshe B'Makoimo V'Lo Medaber B'Makoimo V'Lo Yisei says Dvoro. So this is like two separate things. There's Nechashvim Kemelech, and Nisnagim Kemelech, and then there's something Ezel Moira Lo Yeshiv B'Makoimo V'Chulei, or it's all the same. And this is an expression that when you don't sit, it's Nechashev and Nisnag. I don't know. I have no clue. But if you say that it's an expression of that, then it becomes nuts. And I don't know exactly how to deal with it, because in Koved Rabbi is also Lo Yeshiv Mekoimo V'Ludaber V'Lo Medaber Mekoimo V'Lo Yisei says Dvorov, in the sense that you say Rabbi, you can have a discussion with him, you can't, you're wrong or something like that. You're done in front of the calca. But Rabbi in our aim. So, but why? So why by Rabbi he says Kamelech? and excuse me, by over aim, he says Kamelech, and Rabbo, there's no discussion of Melech. We have no clue. The question is, what's the relationship? It's a separate discussion. And then, even interesting is after this whole thing, the Rambam is Machadish and Mishakol Teira, that Avein, it's doch there's belief, the Chashveg in US Avein, and there's Nisnayeg, and there's a Sifra from Ezel Moir Avein, B'chule. In Mishnah Teira, there's no remnant of this whole idea of Nisnayeg Moir Chashveg. It just disappears. Question is, maybe this is only an explanation. This is the only explanation of Ezel Moira and Ism. It's very hard to say that. Ukva Isboya Mishptei Mitzvazo B'Kiddushin Gam Kein. Now, this comment you can make both. I'm going to make a comment. It could be both on Mitzvah Reish Yud and Mitzvah Reish Yud Aleph, and it could be many places, because this Sifra, you find the Gemara Kiddushin in Reish Yud Aleph, and Ram quotes it here from the Sifra. Similarly, what he did in Reish Yud, there was a Gemara Kiddushin, he quoted from the Sifra, and that's the Ram in general in the Minyan HaMitzvos that he brings from the Matiki Ashmur from the Sifra instead of from the Gemara, and that's what it is. Okay. Now, let's now let's just start Reish Yud Gimel. We'll pick other things up also. Here is just just going to stay a few words, because l'cheira, the text that we have in whether it's Ibn Tibbon or not even Ibn Tibbon or Kapach, that Ibn Tibbon says, even Ibn Tibbon and Kapach, both they libel b'Kiddushin. I don't know how you read it. Each Sivonu libel b'Kiddushin. V'lo says dovo biyado isha, o b'schar, o b'shtar, o b'biyah. So if it's libel b'Kiddushin, doesn't make any sense. We'll see, and I think I mentioned last time that the Tirgum Milui, according to what's his name's according to the dictionary, the Arabic dictionary, something like Kiddushin. But the interesting thing is Ibn Eov, in his Tirgum, he says, He shetzivonu lekiyum hanisuin. V'lo says dova biyad o isha, o b'shtar o b'biyah. So you see, I'm just going to start. I don't even want to go very much into this. The question is, one has to ask, is what is the mitzvah over here? I mean, can one imagine there's a mitzvah to marry a woman and no das whatsoever to make kiddushin and no das to make the suin? That sounds like very odd to say the least. The question is is it the mitzvah of kiddushin or the mitzvah of kiddushin followed by nisuin? And maybe that's what Ibn Iyov means. Hishivonu l'kiyum hanisuin, and this comes through a Ma'aseh Kedushin and the what happens afterwards. And maybe I'm just suggesting with trepidation that this also might be the idea of libel b'kiddushin. It doesn't mean it means libel b'kiddushin is chaye ishus in context of the kiddushin. And how do you do kiddushin? Then it would be b'shtar isha. Let's say it's the biad isha or b'shtar or b'bia. V'zohi mitzvah kiddushin. The problem is then zui mitzvah kiddushin. So it's only Kedushas. We have to know. But there's the sentence structure over here is the best poor, at least the way it's translated. Varemez Allah, which is a very strange phrase. We'll have to talk about that. Amu ki yikach ish isha uba'alo. Hoire shuhu yikne bibi'ila. See, but the problem is the rest of this mitzvah, the whole discussion is only about the kinyan ishus. And there's no discussion at all about Nesuin. But it's very clear in the Prote mitzvahs, Lisa Isha be Kiddushin. So it says Lisa Isha. So there it's very clear in the Prote mitzvah that the mitzvah is Nesuin. And Mitzvah Hashem will pick this up next week, B'li Neder.